Oh, we're live.
We are live now. Get the specs on, so you can see the people.
Right. Hold on. We the people. Wait, what is this? A
Look
Jack
out into
Swagger
the
episode?
audience.
Okay. All right. Microfiber away. What's up, wrestling fans?
Last week, Doug couldn't be heard, and today here he is, not pixelated, or you're looking really clear. You're sounding really clear, Doug.
I'm not exactly centered though, am I? There we go. That's a little bit better.
I didn't know if you meant like philosophically or spiritually.
All of the above, actually, on camera, philosophically, spiritually.
But are you centered for some wrestling? Are you?
I've got a lot of headroom here. It looks like it's kind of weird.
Well, you need it.
Oh, well.
It's a big head.
It is a big head, but I don't know. I mean, anyway. What's up, Kevin?
Just not much, my friend. Just happy to be here on the Two Bros Wrestling Show. Happy for all of you who are out there watching. Thank you, by the way, for the feedback we got on last week's edition of Hot or Not. That was a fun show, and we picked up some subscribers this past week. So thank you very much. Yeah, and if you aren't subscribed, Doug, I think they should.
Absolutely. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us comments below. What do you like to hear next? What do you like to hear? What do you like to hear?
What do you like to hear?
I mean, whatever gets subscribers.
And what do you think about requests? What do you think about Backlash? Because that's what we're talking about, Doug. Tonight is the preview for, and I hate to call it WrestleMania Backlash, but it is WrestleMania Backlash for the second straight year, and that's our main event topic. We're going to tee it up here in a few minutes to let folks know what we think and who we think is going to walk away with some victories. But Doug, it was a big week in the world of wrestling news, so
let's get to that opening bell.
We got a lot, including the latest round. For the first time in a while, we haven't had to talk about it, but we are going to talk about it. Some significant WWE layoffs yet again. We're also going to talk a little bit about some exciting new wrestling programming news also coming up in the news tonight. But Doug, we're going to lead off with your favorite topic, AEW. But some speculation and some at least some hand wringing on how the merger between Warner Media and Discovery is going to possibly affect the future of AEW, how that's going to play out. I know it seems nonsensical, right? AEW is critical success, does pretty well in the ratings. Tony Khan's weekly talking about how great the ratings are. But, if it feels like a replay to WCW days, you're not alone. I know that WCW was not nearly as critically applauded at the end, nor was it in good financial shape at the end. But it also seemed pretty darn safe until AOL and Time Warner merged. So Tony Schiavone lived through this once before, and he is probably in a great position to be an expert on this. He admitted to being nervous. Warner Brothers Discovery is the new name of the company, and yes, this has been coming for a very long time, but now that it has actually been finalized and the new company is together, almost immediately they went to work on cost savings, and that included shuttering CNN Plus, a service that had millions and millions of dollars poured into it and was not live for even 4 weeks before they pulled the plug on it. And in an investor's call, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav has promised that he is going to find $3 billion more in cost savings across the new company in this post-merger era. So we've already seen part of it in the CNN Plus thing, but another thing that came out this week that has caused concern in the AEW world is that it was announced that TBS and TNT will no longer be producing new scripted programming. Now, does that mean existing programming? That was not made clear. But considering that, and this is a quote from the CFO, is, as I'm looking under the hood, CNN Plus is just one example. There's a lot of chunky investments that we are looking at that are lacking what I would view as a solid analytical financial foundation and meeting the ROI hurdles that I would like to see for major investments. Doug, there's a lot to digest with this, and obviously we are just like everyone else speculating, but it was enough to get Tony Schiavone a little nervous, and even Dave Meltzer, who is, an independent outsider. I mean, he's reporting on doing the math. You have AEW, whose contract comes up again in 2024. They are looking, we're hoping at least, Tony was, of new rights fees and getting a larger cut of the pie. And now you're going to be asking for more money from a new business daddy who's already committed to trimming budgets. What do you think?
It is concerning, especially where they're planning to move TBS and TNT away from any scripted programming. Fortunately for us wrestling fans, we're talking about, hardcore sports here. That can't be scripted, right?
I mean, who knows where they consider AEW in that, because it's not their typical scripted programming, nor is it NBA and MLB either. So where does it fall? And who knows how, and if you haven't seen, folks, in the archives, go back and watch it. Doug, we did a whole show on whether or not AEW was profitable and how profitable, because all that is pretty close to the chest. And I have no doubts that Tony Khan, being passionate about wrestling, would try to find a way, should it not work out with TBS and TNT. But as Eric Bischoff can tell you, he and some other investors were ready to buy WCW out and run it as its own company. But once there was no TV, there was very little value anymore in the WCW brand. So Tony has bitten off a lot. And I think this pretty much seals the deal, if not for AEW, which is, of course, we're going to wring our hands about that. But this pretty much seals the deal on Ring of Honor is probably not going to get a spot on TNT anywhere.
Right.
And
but
so now
here's the deal. Tony is a businessman first and foremost. Before as his profession, wrestling fan definitely, but a businessman as a profession. And these, we know these mergers don't happen overnight. This has been talked about and batted around probably for at least a year. We're going through the negotiations of who gets what. It's almost like some sort of complicated divorce and a buyout. So this has been on Tony's radar for a while. The Dynamite Doug in me, which I forgot to update my name again tonight, but the Dynamite Doug in me, wants to believe that, Papa Khan has a plan here and that we're going to see it through. I think you're definitely right, though. ROH does not have a very good chance of landing on any Turner station soon.
And maybe there is reasons that he's diversifying, and maybe there's reasons why he's got a second company. Maybe there's reasons why he's making strategic partnerships with New Japan, and buying Ring of Honor maybe gets you the Ring of Honor streaming platform, Honor Club, and there has to be a plan B. Obviously, plan A would be continue the course and hope for at least the same or a better deal when the contract comes back up again. But if not, I do believe, like you say, Tony's a businessman. Surely there's a reason behind some of these other strategic maneuverings. He will not let AEW just go on a whim the way that AOL Time Warner just, Turner's not here to save it anymore. Ted Turner was the wrestling fan, and we're just looking at it purely as a business. Tony Khan would try to find another way, but it's still concerning that he may even have to try to find another way.
Yeah, unless he goes like an Elon Musk route and just buys himself a TV station next or a TV network.
Which, buying a network, like a Ted Turner is one thing, but the combined assets of what we're talking here is even beyond any one person's, unless you are Elon.
Unless you are Elon Musk.
So
44 billion. Yeah, hold on. I got you right here. There you go.
It would take something like that for Time Warner. I mean, as we're seeing with the CNN Plus and things. But anyway, obviously, we are going to stay on top of this. This is big, and probably the only thing that would take precedent over what our next story is going to be, Doug, and that is more WWE releases. And I do think I threw like 3 WWs in there.
WWE releases.
I thought we'd seen the end of this, my friend, but all of these are NXT names, and some of them, though, were a little surprising. I think most surprising to me would be Dexter Lumis and Dakota Kai.
Absolutely.
Lumis was a popular and unique character who seemed like had a great upside and seemed custom built to fit on the main roster. But I didn't realize he was 38. I mean, he looks great for 38. He's a little older than I thought. And I'm sure that's what doomed him in this equation, is that you're too old for NXT 2.0 now. And
too old for NXT 2.0, and you're around in the Golden Black era in the OG NXT. So Time for you to move along.
Which, again, I think it'd be the kind of character that Vince would find unique enough that on a Raw or SmackDown that there's a chance that Dexter Lumis could have found his way. Dakota Kai, maybe not so much. I think she's extremely talented, but it is surprising in just the fact that she's been with the brand for a long time. And again, like you said, though, she's old school black and yellow NXT. She's 33. I'm sure that's what worked against her here, but her last match a couple of weeks ago was for the Women's World Championship on NXT. And within this last month, she has been a tag team champion in NXT. So she was featured prominently, and now she's gone. Apparently, though, she saw it coming.
Yeah, it's very odd. I thought we were going to get out of April this year without a lot. I mean, at least 30 people didn't get cut this time, but still, here's yet another April where we get hit with budget cuts, releases. But I think, was it Kai? And I know there was a few other folks that said that they had no plans to renew their contracts when they came up. So I guess that's where they thought it was easiest to trim the fat, in their budget this time around.
Well, with Kai, I think it sounds as if much of that was almost defensively seeing the writing on the wall that she was probably not going to renew. On the other hand, surprising that Malcolm Bivens, who has been featured very prominently as a talking head for the Diamond Mine faction, he was one of those that was prominently let go. Apparently, though, WWE wanted him to resign, and he'd been telling them for a while that he had no intentions of doing so, and that he had actually declined.
And they're even batting him around as a mouthpiece for Omos on the main roster, and he still said there was no intentions to renew his contract when it came up. So,
and he's extremely talented. I loved him back in the Ring of Honor days. Stokely Hathaway, I think is what his real name. He goes by his real name. Which I'm sure also, is going to be beneficial to be able to actually go back to your real name. Right. But some other prominent surprises, in addition to Kai, Dexter, and Malcolm Bivens, I would probably be Harland, who, was expected to be the next Brock Lesnar type. I mean, they were really high on him. Apparently, he did not evolve in the ring as quickly as they were liking, but the fact that they gave up on him so very fast. Persia Parada has been featured very prominently on TV the last 6 months. She's been smack dab in the middle of the whole Indy Hartwell, Dexter, Duke Hudson storyline, and now she's gone. She's also young, so she doesn't have the age thing working against her the way that Dexter and Dakota have. So those lesser known, not really high profile NXT talents, just to be all inclusive of everyone here. There was some of these folks I've never even seen on TV or even on NXT Level Up yet, but Sanjin George, Draco Anthony, Mala Malini, Rael Devine, and Blair Baldwin are the others. In total, we had 10 releases, Doug, on Friday. And the reason given was budget cuts.
Budget cuts, yeah. Yeah, but don't we have an investor call coming up soon, though? So
got to make those books look good.
Yep.
And I guess happier partings. Maybe that's not a great transition, but it's still parting nonetheless. But Impact lost the inspiration, formerly known to folks in WWE as the Iconics. They are stepping away from wrestling. Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, as most folks are going to know them, announced that they were amicably parting the ways with Impact and to pursue other endeavors outside the world of wrestling. And in my mind, Doug, it's as talented as these two Australians are, they are still on the young side to be saying goodbye to wrestling. So I think it's wrestling's loss at this point, even though we wish them well.
Absolutely. I think it was Billy Kay that said that she now plans to go on and become a lead in rom-coms. So good luck to her for that.
I mean, if you can pull it off and turn that corner, I mean, obviously once the WWE dreams in, they're not in AEW. Impact, I'm sure, was treating them well, but maybe they are looking long-term and financial futures if they're able to pull something like that off. I guess my memories of these two ladies, I remember seeing Peyton Royce first, and I was in Columbus, saw NXT, had those great on the stage seats that you and I had that time we went. And here she comes out and she had like a rose in her mouth and she looked like 12 when I was that close to her. That's how young she was. And with Billy Kay, I saw an NXT show once in Louisville. And I went back behind the arena at the end to try to meet some of the wrestlers, and they were on the bus, and she was in the front of the bus with her camera taking pictures of us.
That's cool.
Because she was so it was so new to her still. They seemed genuinely enthused that people would want to meet them. So definitely two bright, supremely talented women that didn't get their fair shake in WWE, but we do wish them well in whatever it is they choose. And who knows, it's wrestling. I wouldn't be a bit surprised we see them again down the line.
Absolutely, but it's unfortunate wrestling is losing the iconics. Or what were they in Impact? The
inspiration.
Inspiration. There we go. Yeah.
We had a week of returns, Doug. Let's not just talk firings and goodbyes. We had a lot of reshuffling of the decks and things this week. So just to get through a rundown on this, because I want your take on the last name I'm going to mention, but start with AEW, where Phoenix returned from the gruesome injury that we had all witnessed, and apparently while he was gone, he found Pac, which is great.
And we also got an explanation for the goofy, like Alex Abrahantes, Dracula cosplay.
So that's good in AEW. And I guess MJF dropped a pretty strong hint that Big Cass, known now in Impact as W. Morrissey, is on his way, at least for a one-off in AEW. Taya Valkyrie is set to return to MLW. Lash Legend is jumping the pond and making her debut over in NXT UK this past week. In NXT UK, we saw the debut on that brand of Van Wagner having moved over there, as well as the return to the NXT UK announced desk for the first time in 2 years. Nigel McGuinness was back calling his native brand. I'm presuming that's all probably been pandemic related, why he's been away for as long as he had. The Viking Raiders had made their return to NXT, which I think is actually best for them. Mm-hmm. We talked about them last week, Doug, as being on the not hot side of things. I think they're going to do better there. And then on the Raw side of the house, we saw the return of Asuka from a very lengthy injury, as well as Mustafa Ali. And Doug, that's where I wanted to end on, because let's talk Mustafa. His case, obviously, a little different from all these other folks that I just mentioned.
So here's the thing, man. I'm not sure what they're doing with Mustafa. I've been seeing some like reports from like What Culture, Wrestle Talk, and stuff where they're talking about LA Knight forming a faction off camera during dark matches and things prior to. So LA Knight is forming a stable of sorts that includes Mace and Mustafa. Is this the Resistance or the Revolution or whatever they were called before? Is that going to be this all over again, man? I'm not sure where this goes.
I mean, what's interesting about Mustafa, for those that don't know, is that he's not been injured. He has been off TV and wanting his release and asking for, demanding, starting a social media campaign on Free Ali. And well known, in fact, they have alluded to it in the promos on his return, kind of poking fun at him for the fact that he was not released as he asked. So it's hard to say, Doug, whether this is a amicable, hey, let's try again, no harm, no foul, let's see if we can make you happy, or if he's just being forced into, well, we're paying you, so now we're going to get you on TV. And if the fact they were making fun of him made me think that, this is not going to go well for him. And then rumor has it he was booked to lose originally, and they changed their mind on it. So I was actually surprised when he went over in his return match. Who knows if there's, a punishment storyline in his future, or if he'll get a better deal this time around.
We'll see. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in WWE long-term storytelling, so we'll see.
Another week, another inexplicable, ridiculous NXT name change. If you did not catch it, Kylie Ray, who has been Kylie Ray for a very long time on the independents and in Europe and on NXT UK and now on NXT for a while, Kylie Ray has been given the name. Do you know, Doug?
I don't. Is it Sunset Claymore or something ridiculous like that?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Kylie Ray is now Alba Fire.
Huh.
Yeah. That's Braun Breaker level bad. Alba Fire is not a strong name at all.
It's like a Garbage Pail Kid. Alba Fire.
Alba Fire does sound like a joke Garbage Pail Kid name. That's a good point. Moving on, Dark Side of the Ring creators are in development on a new series. Surprisingly, Dark Side of the Ring was not renewed for a fourth season, or at least has not yet been renewed for a fourth season, despite the fact that it was the most watched show on Vice. However, Dark Side of the Ring may not be renewed because of several reasons. One, the fallout from the plane ride from hell episode continues. And two, they are apparently working on another series for Vice, and they are in development with this new series with the Rock's production company. It also has the buy-in of WWE and the participation of Jim Ross. That's a lot of cooks from very different worlds coming together on this, especially when you have JR, who was famously in the plane ride from hell episode and claimed he would not work again with Dark Side of the Ring because he did not like the way that his comments were taken out of context.
Interesting.
However, you get the $7 Productions, isn't that the Rock company?
Yeah, $7.
That's quite a pedigree that's going to boost this quite a bit. And Doug, if you've not heard the concept, I'm excited about it because one, the Dark Side of the Ring guys have done a great job, in my opinion, with the way they presented things. This is a docu-series that is going to focus on the history of wrestling's various territories. So each week is going to be a territory. Love it. Old school fans. This should be fantastic, especially since WWE owns so many of those libraries. They almost had to come on board. But it is interesting that they would choose to work with Dark Side of the Ring because so much of the content of Dark Side has happened under WWE's watch, as it were, and not always looking so well for them, to be honest.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, that's one that definitely we got to set our DVRs for. We'll keep you in the loop, fans, as to when that will be premiering. A few more news items here, Doug. I'll hit them fast because I know we got to talk WrestleMania Backlash. But New Japan Pro Wrestling president Takami Obara, I know I messed that up, but he had a very eventful trip to the United States because in addition to appearing on Windy City Riot, the NGPW pay-per-view they did from Chicago, then appearing on Dynamite to announce that thing, apparently he saved a little girl while he was over here. Apparently a small girl had been trapped between the train and the platform in the subway and fallen through, and he helped save her. And so, hey, congratulations for New Japan being our heroes here. We always like but WWE is reportedly planning to have even more stadium shows than next year than this year. Obviously, SummerSlam is upcoming, and that is happening just down the road here in Nashville, and that's going to be in a stadium. They finally announced, and I can't remember the name of it, but the event that they're having over in Wales in England is also going to be in a stadium over there. In total, there's going to be 8 events held in stadiums this year. Apparently next year, the idea is to up that even more. Now, the 8 they're having this year is actually a pretty high number for WWE on a normal year, but apparently this is part of their whole new strategy. The idea being that these shows do not need to sell out to be hugely profitable. They are at scale, way more profitable than running sold out shows in 20,000 seat arenas. It's better to have 35, 40,000 people in a stadium with a couple of hundred, couple tens of thousand empty seats, as far as you can get the $10, $15 ticket for someone sitting at the top of a bowl. And they also like the way that it makes everything feel like bigger events as well. And I get that. It does definitely seem like a bigger deal when you're in a stadium than when you're in an arena. But expect that we're going to see a lot more of that, and not just WrestleMania season and the occasional Royal Rumble.
Well, that's cool. That's interesting. I mean, I there is something very cool about the smaller venues, but the exact opposite is also true, where you have these huge events, which, again, I guess it doesn't really need to sell out, but
it's probably costing only slightly more for production, but to host an event, most of the TV and things would be pretty much your same cost, and you can get twice as many people in, and it looks more like a big spectacular.
Right.
Peacock news, Doug. Peacock added 4 million paid subscribers in Q1 for a total of more than 13 million. That's up from 9 million at the end of 2021. This was bolstered significantly by 2 large events. That would be the Super Bowl and Winter Olympics. It'll be interesting to see how Q2 numbers, which will have WrestleMania. And then the final news item I have, and if you haven't heard this is exciting for all of us, but it'll, again, tune in tune into Peacock because Broken Skull Sessions, which is always worth the watch. Stone Cold is an excellent interviewer. The next guest for the Stone Cold Sessions, none other than Cody Rhodes, and that will be premiering this Friday. Cody has been pretty open. He's even mentioned AEW on WWE programming. He was on the bump a few weeks ago, mentioned AEW several times by name. Stone Cold doesn't usually pull punches with his questions. If they're allowed to have an open and honest conversation, this would be even more must-see than the Stone Cold Sessions or the Broken Skull Sessions normally are. So that premieres this Friday on Peacock, Doug, if you can get it.
I've got it. It just, it is what it is with me. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. But at least tonight I am streaming apparently appropriately with no freeze frames.
You look great.
Like last week.
What do you say? Let's get to our main event.
Let's do it.
While you are animated, so before Comcast decides to cut you off.
Right.
Let's talk WrestleMania Backlash. And Doug, just from the start, the name. A fan, do you like you extending that WrestleMania brand? Because there is a lot of actual backlash, I guess you could say legitimately on this from WrestleMania. But I myself wish they just stick with Backlash.
Here's the thing. I think for the casual wrestling fan, Backlash doesn't capture exactly what's going on. For those people who are going to show up for WrestleMania and maybe a few other big events throughout the year that are casual wrestling fans, I get why it's WrestleMania Backlash. Although it seems to really dumb it down and insult everybody's intelligence to say Backlash, the premium live event right after WrestleMania, is going to deal with the backlash from the events of WrestleMania. We're not that dumb as wrestling fans.
I don't know. I do tend to confuse Austin Theory with Stone Cold Steve Austin, so I don't feel very bright.
Well, that's why he's now just Theory. So there's no confusion there for you going forward.
I'd be curious to see numbers. I wish that we could have these sort of things reported the way they used to back when they did pay-per-view buys instead of just, everyone being subscribed to the service. You don't know per se. They don't have to disclose how many people view the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
I would be curious to know if you get more look-ins when you call it WrestleMania Backlash than they did back when. I'm sure they're looking at that. So you're probably right to the casual fan, to the casual Peacock viewer who tuned in for WrestleMania just because, hey, WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of wrestling. Maybe I'll just give it a chance. Mm-hmm. They might also be likely to tune in Backlash when they wouldn't have otherwise.
I mean, you're clearly milking the WrestleMania brand to move to Backlash, but I personally do not like it, but I understand why they're doing it. Like with most things wrestling, I don't like it, but I understand why it's being done.
I don't like it, but I'm going to watch it, and I understand it.
Exactly.
All right, Doug, let's talk about it because I'm going to go from bottom of the card, I think, to the top, and we'll start right off with a WrestleMania rematch. There's a lot of them on this bill, in fact. That being Bobby Lashley versus Omos. Obviously, Lashley got a pretty quick and easy win, really, considering how much time and effort they built into pushing Omos as a monster at WrestleMania. How do you see this one going down? Differently?
Man, this can't be a long match. It can't, because Omos is still as green as the Hulk, man. All that time with AJ helped, but this can't be a long match. This is going to be a theme of mine tonight, looking over the card, but I'm going to give this one to Omos because we're going to see rubber matches in the future. I think, we're in SummerSlam season now, so we've got to set things up for SummerSlam.
SummerSlam, 2 months away.
So I'll give this one to Omos. I've said it before, though. I'm not really fond of WWE's long-term storytelling, so they could totally blow me out of the water on this one. But let's give this one to Omos and start working towards a bigger, grander the rubber match at SummerSlam down the road later this summer.
So you think that'll even go through Hell in a Cell and stretch out? Oh gosh, I hope not.
I hope not either. But I think we need to start building towards SummerSlam now because we're on the road to SummerSlam.
I do think
I'm giving this one to Omos to build towards a rubber match at SummerSlam.
I think you kind of tipped your hat a bit that you think WWE is going to go to its kind of lame default of 50-50 booking lot on this one.
A lot on this one because a lot going down through here. Yeah, I'm going to call, setting up rubber matches for SummerSlam.
I agree that they're going to do a lot of lame 50-50 booking. I don't think they're going to do it on this one. I'm going to go Bobby Lashley on this one. Maybe the end game is Lashley versus MVP.
Maybe it is.
David Porter will call that out.
He hasn't really been physical since he's been back yet, has he?
When he was not since he returned from the legit injury. Of course, now it's a storyline injury. He doesn't need the cane and things any longer. But at first, that did put at least a temporary end to his in-ring participation with WWE. But I just think that they've lost some faith in Omos because they put Lashley over pretty strong, and I think that they're going to need legitimate world title contenders, and I think that they might see Lashley as being that guy who never got the fair shake when he lost the belt originally because he lost it in a three-way. So I'm going to go Lashley on this one. But I do think they're going to see some 50-50 booking in some of these other matches. But before we get to some of those, this isn't a recap or a rematch per se, but it is definitely WrestleMania Fallout. Doug, I want you to defend your comments on this next one because, Doug, you've been pretty vocal about the fact that Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin is this generation's Flair Steamboat. So elaborate on that if you would. He can't defend it, folks. I mean, I'm not seeing it. That must have been better than a Madcap joke.
Just for that, I'm going Madcap because they're strapping a rocket to the kid and shooting him to the moon.
You know, in all seriousness, I'm going to go with you on that. I don't know if he's being shot to the moon, but I think they see something maybe more in Madcap than
we do.
Than we do. I really think that they do. And this is a bit of that 50-50 booking that, you know, Happy Corbin is so hated that I believe at this point, having got the best of Madcap and humiliating him and firing him and all this and trying to destroy his statue. And I think that the feel good here to them, it's going to be a bigger deal than it's going to mean to most people in that arena. But I think that they want this one to go Madcap's way.
Does this one even make it to the main show, or is this on the pre-show? What do you think?
If it was me, I would probably put it on the pre-show, but I don't think that it will be on the pre-show. I think that they think this is a bigger deal than we do.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week when I completely missed the pre-show, as I always do.
Hey, if this truly is a WrestleMania Backlash, then they need to do a 2-hour pre-show and give Kevin no matches to watch, even though he sits there for 4 hours on two different
head, right?
Oh, it was awful. Well, yes, give me something to watch on the pre-show. Here's where 50-50 booking, Doug, I think is going to work out in our advantage because I was slightly underwhelmed with the WrestleMania contest, and I say slightly because I judged it pretty harshly only because of the high expectations I had for AJ Styles versus Edge. I think that this is going to be a better match. I will just go out there and say right now that I don't think that they will underperform a second time. For those who agree with me that it was maybe a little undercooked at WrestleMania. And this time I think that to go that 50-50 booking, I think that they go the other way and give AJ the win on this one.
Do you think there's any House of Purple, or they're actually called something else, but I can't stop calling them the House of Purple? Do you think Damian Priest interferes here? There's some shenanigans. Maybe we even get like a surprise third member that shows up here. Because I'm thinking this match is more to build Edge's stable, and Priest gets taken out early on, and AJ looks like he's going to get the win, but somebody else comes out of the wings. You know, a mystery third member gets introduced here. Intervention by that when the ref's looking the other way or whatever, and Edge gets the win thanks to the newest member of the House of Purple.
So, you know, you definitely, if you're building a stable in the way that Edge is, you need more than just Damian Priest. You need a broader range of followers. He has, though, from the get, been saying to AJ, I'm wanting to bring out that pit bull in you. I'm wanting to bring could this be a recruiting effort?
That's a little too much Blackpool Combat Club kind of recruiting, if that's what's going on there. I mean, we got the House of Black, and now we've got Blackpool, just smushing it all together into like the House of Purple over on WWE. I would hope that's not the case, but I could actually see that now that you said it.
I see that too. Who do you think on this one, though? Do you think it's going to go differently than WrestleMania?
I'm still saying Edge because I'm thinking we get a new member.
So you don't think this goes 50-50? You think they
No,
double down on?
This is not one of my 50-50s. I'm saying there's intervention by a third member, the newest member of the House of Purple, and that's what causes AJ the win.
So we got now 2 divergences between the 2 of us. So
2 divergences.
It's usually we're lucky to get one. We see eye to eye a little more.
This is true. We are usually lockstep on these, but
I actually like this. This is awesome. Let's see about this one, Doug. I think that I have a feeling that I know what you think this one is going to go. I think you talked about it last week, but
oh my God, the bloodline! If that's where we're going, bloodline, absolutely, absolutely. Which even more leads it. Let me tell you, man, especially after the whole like Randy Orton, congratulations, you wrestled for 20 years or whatever they did on Raw thing, which led into a pretty good like main event with like one kid not being like the others. Poor Ezekiel just seems so out of place there. But anyway,
he's still green. I mean,
he's the younger brother of Elias.
He's the younger brother of Elias.
Despite what Kevin Owens may say or think. But Bloodline is winning and unifying the tag titles.
Yep.
Randy Orton is going to have that character shift because he is miscast. Randy Orton, we talked about this last week, where Vince McMahon thinks some of his wrestlers are his superstars are just miscast, and they're trying to bring that back into alignment. That's going to happen with the Viper, Randy Orton. Randy is going to snap, hear the voices in his head. As soon as they lose, Riddle is going to get eaten up, and then that's what pushes us to SummerSlam there.
So the Riddle RKO or the Riddle Orton breakup that we thought would lead to a Mania match is being saved for SummerSlam in your mind?
That's my call.
I think it's interesting that they are, kind of going right now, at least opposite directions, in that you have one women's tag team championship, but 2 men's. And so they're rectifying that by unifying the men's, but you have one male world champion now, but you have 2 female world champions. So do you think that there needs to be some parity in this? Do you think that eventually we'll want to unify some of the other titles as well? Obviously they're trying to do the tag team titles the way they did the Roman Reigns Lesnar feud. You think that there is a women's Raw and SmackDown combined title match down the road? I know it doesn't play into this bloodline storyline, but do you think that there's more to unifying these titles?
You know what? I would love to see that because that gives those titles so much more prestige, where you have unified titles. Although it still bothers me that Roman is carrying around 2 belts, man. I don't want to see the Usos carrying around 4 belts between them. That just gets awkward.
I don't like that either. I ultimately would like to see, call it the Raw Intercontinental Championship and the SmackDown United States Championship, but have a top champion on Raw and SmackDown and 1 world champion. Yes. 1 tag team champion, 1 women's champion, 1 women's tag team champion. I'd be very happy. I think it would make booking a lot easier for them as well. But there's no doubt about it that all the titles are going over to the blue brand. This is one we will not disagree on. I think the RK Bro tag team has been fantastic. It's brought something out of Randy we've not seen in years. Honestly, it's made him more entertaining to the audience than I think he has been in years. He seems legitimately happy, but he'll probably will also be just as happy working with his good friend in a program, and hopefully stays inspired and we get some good matches out of that, because really Riddle needs to be a single star for the future. Randy obviously is on the back end of his career, but if he can help make his friend on the road to SummerSlam.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
We all win, as we're fond of saying on the Two Bros
record. All win, Randy Orton and Riddle at SummerSlam, we're going to win with that one.
So we got another rematch here in the next one I'm going to talk about, Doug, and that is Seth Rollins taking on Cody Rhodes. Seth Rollins went into WrestleMania not knowing who he was facing. Well, of course he did. We all did. But
he should have been reading the dirt sheets, man.
He should have watched the wrestling show, and he would have known. But do you see this one going the same way? Seth can say he was not prepared for Cody Rhodes. Do you think that Cody stays hot, they keep him undefeated, or do you think this is 50-50 booking and they go to a round 3 of this one at SummerSlam?
Round 3 at SummerSlam, absolutely here. Rollins takes it. He's prepared this time. He's ready. He's willing, and he's able. It doesn't kill any of Cody's momentum because Cody is nuclear hot, and in the best way that you can have that heat with the fans and the audience, and I think management right now, because he is this crown, this jewel in the crown that they've plucked from AEW. So Cody loses, but it is after one hell of a fight. Probably we are going to see the match of the night between these two folks. These two dudes are going to deliver like you've never seen before, but it's going to push their story to SummerSlam, where Cody will get that in at SummerSlam. He will dispose of Seth Rollins and move on toward the belt, a title, whatever you want to call it.
I don't think that either of these men really lose anything if they do
Right.
lose, so they could go the other way with it and surprise me. But this is one time that I believe that the 50-50 style of WWE booking makes sense. On this one, he is nuclear hot, as you put it, and so he would lose nothing. And I think at this point, Seth Rollins has probably lost enough big contest over the last year and a half that it's time for him to pick up a win on one. I don't think it needs to even be clean, and it'd be fine, especially if you're going to extend this out to a third. I think they have a great contest. I think that this time Seth is not just prepared, but he has contingencies, and I don't know if it's KO or what, but there's going to be some interference, and it's going to cost Cody a victory. And of course, being the good face, he's going to take it in stride and just demand a rematch in a cage or some other environment where it's more fair with outside interference, and they take this one to SummerSlam. They didn't have a build because they wanted that surprise, so they didn't really have the build pre-WrestleMania.
Right.
All the build has been backfilled, if you would, to after WrestleMania. I think that it's working so well that they got to continue it at least another pay-per-view. I don't know it goes to SummerSlam because honestly, down the road at some point, I think that if they keep Cody Rhodes hot as he is, that he is a potential opponent for Roman Reigns. I don't know it happens as soon as SummerSlam, since SummerSlam's early this year, but I do think we get a third match, maybe at Hell in a Cell, maybe in Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell would be a great environment for this match because I agree with you that Seth is winning this one. I just think it's going to due to some outside interference that's going to make maybe Cody want to get in a Hell in a Cell to keep KO out.
That sounds good. I'll if we don't make it to SummerSlam and Cody gets something else on his plate for SummerSlam, and same with Rollins, I'm cool with that. But I think, we already getting that 50-50 booking, and we go to a rubber match where Cody comes out on top. But yeah, I think we're in agreement, lockstep here with this one.
See if we are on this. What right now stands to be the main event as far as official matches. We're going to get to some possible matches that we might think of here in a second. But right now, it looks like the main event is going to be the rematch for the SmackDown Women's Championship, where Charlotte Flair is defending that title against Ronda Rousey, her WrestleMania opponent. She beat Rousey in a, quite honestly, an underwhelming WrestleMania match. I think most folks thought it was going to be a little more than what it ended up being. They didn't. Ronda seemed a tad bit rusty, and then the screw job finish didn't do any favors for a match that was so anticipated. Don't think it's going to be a stretch to say this should be a better match.
Yes.
But I also think that this is more 50-50 booking. I think that this time, because you need some feel-good moments on this card, that Ronda gets the championship that she was denied in a unfair fashion at WrestleMania. You?
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think this is where Rousey takes the championship, the title, the belt, whatever whatever it's called.
And I'm fine with that. I mean, I know that Charlotte is like a 50-time champion now or something like that. And she'll be champion again, which is also fine. But I do think that Ronda, it seems to me that Ronda Rousey just has more value as a champion, and even value maybe as a heel champion.
Yeah.
I like Ronda. I don't know that she's the easiest always to cheer for in the underdog. It's hard to make Ronda Rousey, the baddest woman on the planet, a face and an underdog at the same time. I think that she works better as when someone's working underneath her as the underdog and the one the fans want to see knock the big bully off.
I agree with everything you said about this one. But I think she makes Charlotte quit, do the I quit, and we move on. Maybe Charlotte lays low for a while after that, and we see returning Bailey. I'm not sure what her health situation is, but maybe we see a returning Bailey in time for SummerSlam to right some wrongs that have been done to the four horsewomen over the years. I don't know. We'll see.
And thank you for calling out that this is an I Quit match. I failed to mention that. But you do have women, both of whom use prominent submissions as finishers. So an I Quit match has a little bit more added intrigue than you get standard where maybe somebody doesn't have a good submission finisher. Both these women have legit looking submission finishers. So I would anticipate that we'll see them both applied at various times in the match. And I do expect that it'll be better. I don't think that they're going to go the cheap route again, not for a second time.
Right.
Doug, that's all the matches that are scheduled, but do you think that this is the main event? What do you think? Do you think that, I know they sort of teased some action for the big dog on with maybe some Drew McIntyre, but it seems like that one's maybe slower percolating. Do you think they have a pay-per-view, a WrestleMania Backlash without Roman Reigns?
Unless they work McIntyre into a whole McIntyre and Reigns into something with RK Bro, I don't think so. I saw some really good cell phone footage of a house show where Reigns nails a beautiful spear as McIntyre's going for a Claymore. I think it was at a UK house show over the weekend. But it is beautiful, and I'm wondering, are they setting up something for the two of them? Is this where they're working through their WrestleMania Backlash match that'll be made by next Friday? I don't know.
I know that the rumors coming out of WrestleMania was that while they're all in on Roman Reigns being dominant, even more so than he's already been, that they also were not certain where they wanted to go next and who the next opponent should be. I feel like, at least for the sake of this pay-per-view, that they've waited too long. I know we'll get a couple more matches added, but to me, Doug, those matches should be your pre-show match or your opening contest. It shouldn't be your default main event because it's a world title match between the current champion and a former world champion. That, to me, seems too soon. Does it mean that they won't do it? No, right. It's not. It's WWE. It's very likely that they book it with less than a week to go, but I kind of hope that they hold off. I'd be fine for a 2.5 hour pay-per-view where
I would like
makes his present, but doesn't have to necessarily be in the match.
Yeah, a clean, crisp, short pay-per-view, Backlash, knock them out, move on. That'd be great, man. We wouldn't be here at like midnight.
I'd rather see, honestly, Drew and Roman happen with some build to it, because if they book it on Monday, we all know how it's going to go down. Roman is just going to continue as champion, and Drew was just a last-minute fill-in, is the way it's going to seem. Let's make Drew a more legitimate threat and let it percolate for 3 or 4 weeks, and then have this at Hell in a Cell, or heck, save it to SummerSlam if you don't have any better ideas. Because I don't know who the next guy is. We question it at WrestleMania itself. Lesnar couldn't take him down. Who is a realistic threat?
Who's credible? Yeah. If Lesnar can't take you out, who can?
And I think that Cody is hot, but I think that they need to keep him hot and give him some more victories, and not just Seth. Again, Seth is fantastic, but I think that he needs a couple of feuds under his belt.
Absolutely. Cody needs to eat through the roster before he becomes the legitimate threat to Roman Reigns. And he's not there. He is not there yet, as just coming in hot off because he's like a steal from AEW. You can't hot shot that. You've got to build him as a legitimate threat.
And Doug, the only other thing I'll mention then, because I was going to ask you about that, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I don't think it'll happen. I wouldn't put it past them. So I'm hopeful that it doesn't happen. But I do think that there'll be some other contests added, maybe one other contest, perhaps two. But Sonya Deville looks like she might be in line for the Raw version of the Women's Championship. Do you see that match happening? And if so, how do you see that going down?
You know what? I really like Sonya Deville. Yeah, I don't like her as an administrative, not GM, not authority figure, but yet authority figure that can make matches. I don't like that, but I am happy to see Sonya moving back into the ring. However, I do not see her taking anything from Bianca. don't see that happening. Belair is going to hold the belt for a while, and Bianca's not, or Sonya's not the one to take it from Bianca.
That match is definitely going to happen. Whether or not it happens at WrestleMania Backlash is right now the question. It wouldn't surprise me if that gets booked tomorrow night, and that's more a stopgap. Legitimate. I'm fine for it to be added on as opposed to a bigger deal like a Roman Drew matchup. So
right.
If it gets added, I agree with you. That's the way it's going down. And Doug, that's WrestleMania Backlash.
Yes,
folks. If you don't agree with us, Doug and I had a few disagreements. Let us know which one of us you think is right, which one is wrong, or if we're both wrong and on the ones that we called the same way. Let us know in the comments, and then tune in next week because we will be live, as always, at the end of the pay-per-view, our premium live event, as it were, to give you a recap of what we thought of the night's action.
Yep, we will be here. So are we moving on? Big finish.
You ready to big finish this thing?
I am ready to big finish this thing, man.
You want to start Botch?
Botch. Let's start Botch. What do you got?
I'm going AEW on this one, Doug. Tony Schiavone, who, I did not like at the end of WCW and forgot how much I did like him back in the World Championship Wrestling TBS 605 kind of days.
Same here, man. Did not like Schiavone at the end of WCW, but have realized what a great human being he is and a great announcer he is.
And honestly, when you look back at the end of WCW, I'm comparing him to Jim Ross at the time and the product at the time and what he was being asked to call and the things he was being asked to say. I realized it's not so much Tony's fault, and it kind of took his passion away. He's obviously passionate about AEW and he's back and he's doing a great job. However, I will have to call him out, and this one was kind of a funny one for me. But when you're sitting there and you're watching a hardcore match in the city of Philadelphia, and Tony Schiavone says, "You don't see a lot of kendo sticks during a Philadelphia street fight."
I missed that, man.
It was the Sheeta Serena Deeb match, and they're beating the heck out of each other with kendo sticks. And I'm thinking that was Sandman's entire gimmick, Tony. I know that you weren't an ECW guy, but you're a wrestling guy. Surely you had to know that. I'm sure afterwards he caught what he'd said and realized that, that was probably not the thing to say in the land of hardcore, particularly when Sandman and Tommy Dreamer both, particularly Sandman, that was a big word. That was pretty much the whole Sandman gimmick other than drinking beer and Metallica. But that's my botch of the week. Not a major one, but come on, Tony.
So interestingly enough, and maybe this is why the Dynamite's not in my title again tonight. But my botch is also with AEW. And not because of either one of the performers involved, not because of who won this, but because there was a title change, man. That TNT title is just being hot potatoed around right now. And I do not like that Scorpio Sky took it from Sammy. I like Sammy Guevara. I think he's a great heel, especially with Ty Conte. I like that they're listening to the fans and they just kind of flipped the dynamic and made America's top team baby faces out of nowhere. And that Sammy and Ty Conte are now heels. Okay, I'm cool with that because it's very organic the way that's happened. But that lessens that title when it's just being hot potatoed around as much as it has recently.
I mean, Cody hasn't been gone that long, and he was the champ. Like, how many times has it changed in the month and a half since then?
Right? I don't even know. It's like I'm thinking three, at the very least three.
And it gets confusing because you had an interim champion at the same time.
Exactly. So, I mean, I really like Scorpio Sky. I'm glad Scorpio has it, but I don't like the way I just don't think it should have changed hands so quickly.
I agree with you on the Sammy Ty thing, and I also agree with you on the hot shotting of the title doesn't need to change that often. I'm not sure I'm going to sound like Vince McMahon here and say that folks are miscast, but something, even if it's organic or not, cheering Dan Lambert just is like that. I mean, you talk about a natural heel. That man is a heel.
And that's the thing. Are people cheering for America's top team and Scorpio Sky because they want Scorpio Sky to win? Or they want Sammy to lose. What is happening there?
I think it's for Sammy to lose.
Yeah.
How about your performer of the week, Doug?
Performer of the week, man. I was watching Raw this week, and and it just struck me. I mean, maybe it was because he was wearing my favorite color, but Seth Rollins is just him sitting at ringside during the "Hey, we love Randy Orton" thing, and then getting up and just being the character that is Seth Rollins. This really is an amazing character. I've joked before he looks like some sort of anime villain, and I think he still does. He's a very flamboyant, just villain, and I just love this being like the comic book anime sci-fi geek that I am. This over the top character, I just sat there and laughed and just had so much fun watching Seth Rollins this week. I've got to give it to him, man.
Fair enough. No arguments from me on that one. My performer on the week, my performer of the week, a lot more under the radar. I think it's a subtle thing, and really, it's as much a testament to AEW as it is to the individual. But I'm giving mine to Julia Hart. Julia is a young, up and coming, tons of potential. Like, this is a really athletic lady who is playing off a legit cheerleading background. But at this point, she's definitely at the lower end of the card. But this just goes to AEW's credit that they are into the long-term storytelling, even if it's with a minor background character, which at this point, Julia is going to be a breakout. But right now, she is definitely a minor background character. But many months ago now, she takes the mist in the eyes from Malachi Black. And over time, even though they disappear from TV for long stretches, she's on AEW Dark. She's on Dark Elevation. She's on her own Instagram and things, always with the patch. And the more that this has gone on, you start to notice that outside of the patch is growing this little dark spot that keeps getting larger every single week. Now, where that leads, we don't yet know. But it's been several months, and they have stuck with this. And as the darkness underneath this patch that she's hiding continues to grow, so does her attitude start to change. She went from being the happy-go-lucky, two-time, champion and waving at the crowd. She kind of sulks out to the ring now. And she turns her back now on, it went from sulking to turning her back on Brian and Griff Garrison to, in one of her matches on AEW Dark, she started to cheat, and they started to hey, wait a minute, what are you doing? And she demanded they go to the back. She got the ref herself to kick them out of the arena, even though they're strong guys. And again, she is a minor background character, but they're definitely going somewhere with this, that we're seeing a slow turn, evil evolution, maybe even a eventual drafting away to Malachi Black's stable. Who knows? But they commit even to the smallest detail, even to the smallest of their acts. They don't all feature it on the folks at the top of the card. And that's kudos to her, but bigger kudos to AEW and their attention to detail.
Nice. Because I watch her and I'm thinking, Julia, nobody cares. Malachi Black forgot who you are, but I did not realize that this was happening off screen, on her Instagram and also on her, when she's on Dark. Because I would love to see a female in House of Black. I think Buddy Murphy, or Buddy whatever he is now, is a bad fit for the House of Black. I think he struggles with the aesthetic that Brody King and Malachi Black bring to the House of Black, and I think honestly Julia would too. And I also think that AEW
so squeaky clean, and it doesn't fit their image of tattooed.
Right, yeah, that aesthetic that they've established doesn't really cross over to Buddy, and definitely wouldn't with Julia. But I also think there's a surplus of people with half painted faces in AEW, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but I just think it's kind of weird, man.
How about your match, Doug? Who's your match? Man, put our scroll up.
So, surprise, it's going to be for AEW. Well, I know, right? Shocking, but I've got to say, FTR going head-to-head against each other in that Owen Hart tournament. I mean, come on, man. That's great storytelling. That is great in-ring storytelling. The finish was great. The hesitancy, when they're going after each other, because
The
it's
accidental poke to the eye, or wasn't
yeah,
it? Yeah.
yes,
Yes. Old school, man. That was so old school. And the crowd, like with a spoon, was eating everything.
everything, man. And I'm old school. I loved it.
I absolutely loved it. I'm glad, so glad that you mentioned it, because I had that as my match of the week, and then I had a hyphen as to like, oh, which way do I go? You
Uh-huh.
talk one, I get to talk the other. So I was torn because I love that match. Again, I love the storytelling. It was old school. You don't see that much. You used to see it a lot more, where like, hey, we're going to agree
Yes.
to have this match, and at the end we'll still be friends. Nowadays, if that were to happen in
Oh,
WWE,
the
by
tag
the end
team
of it,
breaks up.
they
Yeah.
would wake up. And the fact
Yeah.
that at the end they're like, yeah, I'm sorry, good, congratulations, and they're celebrating good. Loved everything about it. And then last night, like 1 a.m, I'm catching Pluto TV. So fans, if you missed it, again, I know we reference our archives a lot, but we've had 100 some shows, so we've got a lot of topics covered. But if we go looking at the one about cord cutting, let me pull up David's here. First singles win for Dax. He's got him going all the way.
I don't see that, but it will be entertaining.
That would be, I would like that. But yeah, my match, I'm going to say Pluto TV. If you didn't see our show on cord cutting and wrestling, Pluto is the world's largest free streaming service, if you're not already using it or aware of it. And two things why you should probably be watching if you're not, is that they have since its inception, or at least for the last 4 or 5 years since I've been watching it, have had two 24/7 linear wrestling channels, one dedicated all to AAA and one dedicated all to Impact, showing classic matches, I mean, dating back decades in the case of AAA. But about a year and a half ago, they added their own dedicated Pluto Pro Wrestling Network, which is a third all 24/7 wrestling channel. But this is more modern stuff and not just archive stuff. And they partner with some very significant indies on this, including Deny and PCW, Progress, until Progress got, I guess, over on WWE Network. But there is a plethora of independents that now partner with Pluto. Last night, Pluto held for the first time its very first live streaming wrestling event. It was Wild Ones. It streamed on beginning at 11 o'clock because it was a West Coast start, but it featured acts such as Swerve Strickland, the Bollywood Boys, some other large independent names. But in the main event, what we had was Filthy Tom Lawler versus Jon Moxley.
Oh.
It was an absolute brutal bloodbath. And when I mean, the whole concept of the match is, who is the filthiest, dirtiest wrestler out there? No holds barred, obviously. These men, they were gushing blood. When one would hit the other, like I thought the ringside fans needed to like at the SeaWorld shows, it was literally like geysers coming out of particularly Tom Lawler at one point. It like the old Stone Cold footage with the Bret Hart WrestleMania match where it's squirting out this way and not just rolling down. It's squirting. And I know that's brutal, but I mean, that's the gimmick these guys work. That's what Mox loves to do with his weekends. The man loves this stuff. At one point, Lawler is like biting his head and like spitting the blood out to the side. I mean, these guys beat the crap out of each other, and Mox takes the victory, but it was a great, intense wrestling match. And at the end, Mox gets the microphone and basically thanks everyone for letting him do this kind of thing on a weekend, and how much he loves Deny Wrestling, and how that was one of the most fun matches he'd ever had. He considers Filthy Tom Lawler now a friend of the Blackpool Combat Club, that he was one of the toughest guys legit that he'd ever been in the ring with, and that he was coming back to Defy, and asked the crowd what he would think if he brought if they like tag team wrestling, and would you like to see my tag team partner with me next time? So I don't know that there isn't a working AEW relationship, considering you had not just Moxley, but Swerve on there as well, and maybe the promise of Daniel Bryan down the road. But man, go out of your way to see this match. All of you out there, it was fantastic.
That's awesome.
And with that, folks, That is our preview of WrestleMania Backlash. The review comes next week, and then we're going to take a week off on the 15th. So hopefully you come back and join us. Like, subscribe. Next week we're live as soon as the premium live event ends on Peacock.
Live event. Let's hope it works for me.
Let's hope it does, or otherwise it's going to be a one-sided conversation.
I'll sit here and grumble about Peacock for an hour. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below.
Appreciate it, everyone. See you next week.